How many people in here would say they're creative? Raise your hand, please. Okay, keep your hands up, please. Of those, how many of you believe you're good storytellers? Now, of those that are still up, how many of you have a passion for data? Okay, you. I'm going to talk about analytics, and in fact, why I think analytics are truly a creative discipline. So someone there had a question about why isn't all this data used more within organizations? And yes, it is in part resources, but also in part it's not using enough imagination as to what you can do with it. Sort of opening yourself up, and you can do anything with this, and what should you do with this, and using that creativity. So I think we all have creativity. It's not always something that we've developed a lot. I think that that the best analysts really are creative storytellers, and I'll give a couple of examples. To thinking up what the business problems are that you can solve through analytics, imagining how it's supported by the data. A very important thing is figuring out sometimes how to get the data, or figuring how you can substitute other data. We don't always have it at our fingertips, or we don't always have the data that we think we need for it. In fact, I'll give you a couple of examples where actually the title of the solution had nothing to do in theory with the data that was available. So good analysts are storytellers, and there's beginning to be a lot written about the storytelling of analysts. So some business challenges for retailers, first of all. There's loads of business challenges. There's thousands of business challenges. One of them is serving the customer better by understanding the customer lifestyle. So you get, and there's more information. You get, time of day of the time, the date, the store, the customer ID, what the product was, how much you bought of it, what the price. You probably get information about whether it was on promotion, and you have one of those for each one of the items in your ticket. Well, I once did a little exercise for myself, and I looked at sort of just that retail transaction data, and this is without taking into consideration anything around clickstream or any of the other kinds of data. So people searching for different products and abandoning those products. Didn't take any of that into consideration. And I came up with about 10,000 different kinds of variables you can have. Or you can look at how many times someone's gone shopping over a certain time period. You can look at the kinds of, how many times has he bought beer? What was the size of his basket? How many things did he buy in promotion? How many different stores did he shop in? Does he migrate from store to store? What time of the day? What day of the week? And does his shopping behavior vary by the time of the day? So there is all sorts of different data that you can create out of it. Yes. So the creativity is knowing, well, what kinds of things can you do with this data that actually bring it to life? What you're doing when you're analyzing data for marketing purposes is you're looking to see the person in the data. What is this person like? Why are they doing what they're doing? What makes them tick? And actually then how you can actually use that information, not only to better your business, but actually to better the customer's experience with you. So only slightly disguised from a European retailer, where we take this kind of data and we bring it to life and we create something called lifestyle segments. Now, do we know anything about the lifestyle of the customer? Well, no, we only know the shopping behavior here. And yet you can infer a lot about the customer's lifestyle. So I know that you can't see it behind here, but I know that whenever I'm profiled, I always come out into the lifestyle segment of more money than time. So if I sit down with a manager who is responsible for marketing, and and I explain, I can profile the different segments. And if I profile a segment, not this particular segment, but if I profile a segment and explain it to him, and he says, "You're describing my parents. That's exactly who they are." Then, I'm really capturing the lifestyle. And this is real. This is what you can do with the data if you're creative. In the beginning, we heard that, and Marie mentioned commoditized markets. Mobile is definitely becoming a commoditized market. And so everyone sells the same thing. They have the same types of offers. How can you actually gain more loyalty from your mobile customers? Again, one of the ways is understanding lifestyle. The customer isn't actually coming to tell you usually what their lifestyle is, but you can infer it. There's a lot of actually different interesting data sources in telco, but I'll use one. What you see is who you call and how much money you spend and when you call, time of day, day of the week. Every single time, every time you pick up your phone and do something with it, there's one of these records created. So we're talking billions upon billions of records created. And that's without taking into consideration some of the network data that Edouard mentioned. I have no idea how many different variables you can create with this because I haven't sat down and done the exercise, and I don't know how many hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. I don't know. So you can know things like the last number of calls someone's made in the last 7 days, how many people are in their calling circle, how many people in their calling circle do they have a regular relationship with, how many people, do they have a reciprocal relationship with, who are the important people in their lives, and are these people more important to them, or are they more important to these people? So you can find out a lot about this. The creativity is actually coming up with a small set of interesting and useful analytical variables for the business problem. In this example, we did something called social network analysis, which in this case is just based on these call detail records. So we know who calls whom, what the relationship is, and we can say who influences whom. So you can actually do some other stuff as well if you've got creativity. This is creativity in the analytics, coming up with the idea. We can find out and please don't get scared, anyone, but by looking at your calling pattern, we can actually figure out to a large extent which people that you call are your friends, which ones are your family members, and which ones are your business associates, by looking at patterns in the data. But we have to actually be creative about this. We have to be creative in terms of what we're looking at. We have to even be creative about just coming up with this idea. No one says, this is our marketing brief on this. It's working with marketing. It's analysts working side by side with marketing and really knowing enough about the data to know what you can get out of it, to know a lot about the patterns. Briefly go into a family pattern. What's a family pattern? Well, let me talk about a friend's pattern, a relationship pattern. When people have a strong relationship, you see a lot of calls late at night, right? And they tend to be long calls. The friends tend to make longer calls than family members. Let's say these two people move in together. I'm using your example, Edouard. They move in together. What happens? Those long calls late at night stop, right? There's a short call, in the evening hours when people are on the way home, either, honey, I'm on my way home, or honey, don't forget to pick up some milk on your way home. And then, of course, if that relationship dissolves, those calls, stop also. So we can use what we know about patterns actually to identify, without actually someone telling us, who the friends are, who the family members are, who the business associates are. And then we can use this information to understand what products actually should be cross-sold to people based on maybe their products for friends, and maybe someone can influence their friends if they've got a lot of friends with strong relationships. So there's a lot you can do with this information. It's just a question of creativity. Without creativity, you do not get a useful solution as an analyst. And if you're not a creative person, then the algorithms, that's a small piece of it. Give me someone who is creative, passionate about data, and can tell a good story. I could turn them into an analyst. Give me someone who is just focused on algorithms and number crunching, and I don't know if I can actually turn them into a really good analyst. But I'm sure about the creative side. So I know the subtopic of this conference is from analytics to creativity, but I really think it should be from creative analytics to creative marketing. So that's all.